We're in part 2 of the 13th annual Pre-NAB Editors Lounge. We talked about this last year and possibly the year before, the cloud. Is anybody doing any editing in the cloud?
Yes.
Okay, well, what are you doing in the cloud?
If we take a look at traditional editorial, it's still primarily done within the four walls of your facility. There is products like Foreseen out there, which are cloud editorial platforms, which are great for string outs. The Olympics used it a few years ago. Dr. Phil's using it for some various needs for string outs and producer and stuff. And then, of course, there's review and approve, right? You want to finish a cut, upload it. Hey, what do you think of this scene?
Who are you using for review and approvals?
Frame.io. That's a great one. If you've worked with Cat TV, which is an asset management system, there's a third-party company called NSA, oddly enough, North Shore Automation, that makes a Comey, which gives you your own private YouTube almost, allows you to push content up to a private YouTube and then view, hit play, make notes, etc.
Mark, anything going on?
For review and approval, we have our own internal thing. So our cloud is over our own heads.
Is it your own servers then?
Yeah, it's our own servers inside our four walls, but it reaches out, and worldwide you can access stuff. That's for review and approval. I would love to see a true cloud solution work really well. The barrier is this sheer amount of media that we have to upload to it, and unfortunately, many of our productions are not in internet access friendly environments. They are either traveling on a daily basis or holed up in some godforsaken desert somewhere where it's really difficult to get connectivity. So the idea of shooting on location, popping it up to the cloud and being able to edit immediately is still a fantasy for us.
You were talking about this huge overload of data and the storage issue. The cloud would be a way of resolving that, let somebody else deal, let somebody else.
But our bandwidth right now, I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 10, we might be a 3. And that's the one thing that I see tripling, quadrupling over the next year or so. Our bandwidth to the outside world, which makes things like the cloud even more possible.
You're just planning on investing more resources?
Yeah,
okay.
Because what used to be a HDCam SR final finished master that we'd give to a PA and drive to Santa Monica and drop off at MTV is now a file transfer. So, everything we are doing is now a file transfer. And that translates directly to larger, more bandwidth.
Yeah. Terry, have you done anything in the cloud? I know you're kind of anti-cloud, right?
Editors will say, oh, that'd be great, I can edit from home. Okay. As soon as the producers and directors get used to not being in your edit bay, that edit bay can be anywhere in the world. Guess who's going to get that work? It ain't going to be you at the rates you're charging.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope. No. And the reason why is it's called physics.
Yeah.
All right. Who here's into physics? Right. Speed of light. Ever tried to edit at another continent when the media is sitting here?
But there are companies that promise to catch that information worldwide. So you're not going global. You're not going halfway around the world. You're only going to, 3 time zones.
If it's a way for the people on top to make more money, and they'll do it.
Yes.
I'm still a big believer of cream rises to the top. And if you can find an editor better than folks that you're dealing with here in LA, hey, hats off to the guy in Wyoming.
You know who actually produces the most films on the planet? Yeah,
India.
Okay.
India.
So I think it might have a couple editors there who know what they're doing. Could be.
Then I guess we all got to become better editors.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes a commodity.
Is that more industrial work or is that creative editorial?
Oh God, that's creative. It's everything for major motion pictures. Because visual effects have become commoditized.
The industrial portion of visual effects I would agree with, but creative craft editorial, I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, it's already, most of it has left the U.S.
I would disagree with that.
Things have changed.
Yes, they have.
Pretty dramatically. We wanted to talk about virtual reality.
We're preparing to start editing a lot of VR stuff for a client. So yes.
Oh, really? Can you say who the client is?
No.
Uh-huh.
But I can talk about editing VR. I can tell you, if you want to do it, the way to do it now, if you want to do VR, is to do Jaunt, because Jaunt has a self-contained system. They have the camera. You just upload all of your cards to basically your files to them. They stitch it together automatically. into one single file that you can work with in Premiere. And when you're done, you upload your file to Jaunt, and it produces the 3 flavors of VR. One is the left and right eye, which is if you've seen the camera like the Google Glasses or Oculus Rift, etc. It gives you the stereo vision of the world. The second one is on a web browser. If you can go to, like Jaunt, for example, you can see VR movies on there, and you scroll with your mouse or whatever, and you can look at any part of the movie going on. And then the third is with the phones. If you have you can download the app from Jaunt, and in that one, wherever you move your phone, you're looking around. But those are 3 completely different files because they have to interact different ways. It's really fun to watch. When they put one of these on and they have the thing and they start watching and this is what you see, they go, whoa, wow, did you see that? Now, were you guys enjoying an experience with me? No. So it doesn't lend itself to what we do as storytellers. It really doesn't work for that very well.
I've heard feedback that most people put it on, they spend the first 5 minutes
looking around.
Then
they find a place.
And then they find a place and they stop.
Yeah, it's an entirely different aesthetic for editing, and all the rules haven't really been defined yet because people are kind of learning how to work with it. It's tough as a storytelling concept. It's really good in the video game world, in a true 3D world where you're creating it, because then you can actually take advantage of what VR promises. It can't deliver, and when you're shooting it, it can't deliver what VR promises. So if I'm wearing the VR headset and I go, gee, I wonder what's behind that, I can walk over there and look in there if it's a video game world. If we put a camera here and shoot it, I can't go there. I can only be this point of view because that's where the camera is. So how do you it's not as interactive, in other words. So the true VR, true virtual reality, has to be a 3D generated world where if you decide to walk over there, it's generating that.
Wrong. Disagree. How many people subscribe to the New York Times here? They put out this huge ad, like a 6-page unfolding ad that said, next week we're going to send everybody cardboard Google Glass VR, and we're launching our own New York Times VR division. Okay. They're taking the exact opposite approach to what you're talking about, which is you are there in the world where you can see everything. And
yeah, but you can't move in it. You can't interact with it.
Well, no, and you can't do things. But for example, the one thing that I saw was we talked about politics. Was coverage of the political campaigns, taking 4 of the front runners and putting, if that microphone was the VR thing, putting you in the middle of 4 different rallies, 4 different speeches, and you really could see the difference, and you understand the difference between how being there via VR was compared to watching it on CNN.
You're both right, but I think what Terry's saying, and there are these VR purists who insist that they have these, tiers of what VR is, from 360 immersive to true VR, as you put it. Yeah.
QuickTime 360, I think, is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is actual environment that you can interact with.
Yeah, that true virtual reality. Like I said, I want to walk through that door. I could walk through that door in a 3D generated universe. I can't do that here because you didn't shoot that.
And yet some of the immersive stuff have found really compelling. I mean, one of the places aside from gaming that it's really big in is news and documentaries.
Yes.
I always hated 3D TV and 3D movies, but I find this compelling. It's something different from what we're used to, but I think it's something that's going to grow into.
Are you guys familiar with the Microsoft version? I forget what it's called.
You mean HoloLens? Is that
HoloLens?
The HoloLens, yeah.
That is very cool because you basically put the thing on, you still see everything around, but you have overlays.
That's called augmented reality.
Overlay.
That's not virtual reality, that's augmented reality.
Yeah,
Magic Leap is doing
cool.
that. Years ago, somebody was doing it where you could do it, you could walk around in the city and things will pop up telling you, what happened.
Your iPhone does that now.
Google Glass.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting because a few years back, we were thinking, the cloud is hazy, and now, the cloud is real. Same thing with 4K. So virtual reality, it'll be interesting to see next year where we're at. We'll be further along. I could see reality TV having a virtual reality app.
It's going to be supplemental.
Yes, supplemental.
It's not going to be the primary.
Well, that's what Hollywood studios are using it as a marketing tool. I mean, The Martian had the Martian VR experience. The Walk, the Philippe Petit movie had The Walk, and these are all just Sleepy Hollow. Actually, one of the very first ones at E3, 2 years ago, was a thing with Sleepy Hollow. So yeah, they're definitely using it as a marketing, which is how they first used their mobile content also.
Yep.
Security and encryption. I mean, we're all concerned with encryption, security.
Earlier, we were talking about stuff in the cloud, like we would never edit in the cloud for security reasons. Stuff lives on we're on a Unity right now, so on our Unity. And the only thing we do in the cloud is, cuts, and it's usually very specific. I've used DAX, I used Pix, I've used Media Silo. When I worked at EE years ago, they had something called Digital Dailies, where it was their own system that they had an engineering department that developed that software just for internal e-productions, and that's what everything was viewed on. And so it's a huge deal.
Not to tip the hat for NAB, but anyway going to NAB, there will be a lot of announcements for some drive manufacturers that all of you use that will lock drives.
Well, we've been using lock drives on shows for years.
Really?
That when we ship stuff.
What constitutes lock drive? Is put it in a case with a lock, or the drive
the
actually
drive
has...
itself has a password to get in.
Okay.
And Mark, what about, are you instituting?
Security is always a concern for us, depending on the nature of the show. Sometimes the attention from paparazzi and all that is extremely high. So we take whatever precautions we can.
This is the pre-NAB discussion. Terry's not going to NAB. What about you, Mark? Going?
Yeah,
yes?
I'll be there.
Monica?
I'm going to be there on the weekend. I kind of want to check out the Future of Cinema conference.
Yeah. Michael, are you going to be there?
Saturday through Thursday. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. What do you hope to see the future of cinema? That sounds really.
I'm always open. Even though I work on old versions of software, that's not by my choice. I actually have, I have Adobe Creative Cloud. I have actually the Avid subscription plan. So it's like I have the latest software on my own personal system. And I always like to see what's available and see, how can I work better, faster, more efficiently, so I have more time for creativity.
Well, Avid, I know, is having their press conference on Saturday at 9:30 in the morning.
Oh, at Avid Connect? I will be going to that as well.
Good. I will see you there. Do you?
See both of you.
Have you heard any rumors, or what are they showing?
I've heard nothing. I've heard absolutely nothing.
What did you not hear?
I've heard absolutely nothing about any kind of products and announcements. Yeah, I can't.
You can't.
I can't.
All right,
Yeah.
you can't. Should we be interested? Or is it just...
There's going to be a decent amount of interesting things at NAB this year, and Avid would probably be in the top 20.
Oh, okay. So
HDR, big topic.
yeah, but who's going to be showing anything new and interesting in HDR this year?
I'm hoping there's going to be more and more from Adobe and Avid in terms of the editorial portion. I'm hoping from the monitor companies, Sony, Panasonic, JVC, TV Logic, Boland, et cetera, in terms of HDR and it not costing your firstborn. Right?
In terms of monitors?
In terms of color grading worthy monitors, not
Yes.
just...
Reference monitor.
Yeah, thank you.
But we've never, that hasn't happened since the CRT went away.
No, but which is why
OLEDs.
we go to NAB. OLEDs, yeah, but
OLED
again,
is
those are
down.
arm and a leg,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Well, the PVMs aren't that bad. The Sony
They're
PVMs.
still what, seven grand for a
Like
24?
5 when you really buy it, but
Yeah.
Security, like I said, hard drive manufacturers with secure transport through physical mediums. Video over IP, massive. And again, that's stuff we've already talked about, so it's not anything new.
What would be the best, most fabulous thing to see if you had a fantasy product that would debut at NAB?
I would love to see a cloud solution that defies the laws of physics.
Speed of light is no longer an option.
I want to see software that doesn't have any bugs. Cause it crashed 10 times.
I would love to see an affordable, and affordable I don't mean $200, I mean a couple $1,000s is I think affordable, a piece of transcoding software that understood card formats and would also deliver the high-end stuff we need for VOD IPTV. Because right now we have consumer applications that understand this format but not that format, right? Or they just handle the VOD IPTV modules, and that's 30 grand minimum, right? We've got great stuff like Telestream Vantage and Route 6 and enterprise stuff and Rosette and all these situations, but they understand the deliverables, not the card formats, right? And the ones that do are pretty darn expensive. So again, I'm not looking for something that is black magic pricing, but something that is decently priced and understands both sides of the encoding sandwich and can handle that.
What would be the best gift you could get?
Standard would be fantastic. Wouldn't it be nice to have just one thing we work with, whatever it is? Even if it's per resolution, but just one per resolution, that would be great. Per has kind of become this sort of de facto codec, which is a real pain in the ass because you can't generate it on a PC in most products. So,
And it's not a standard.
and it's not a standard. Yes, it's very, very non-standard actually. It would be nice to have, a true universal codec that worked the same everywhere, like the DigiBeta did when you popped it in another DigiBeta deck. That would be great.
We can
Man,
always
it's been
hope.
so long since I've handled a DigiBeta.
I know.
Believe it or not, we still have deliver them on occasion. It's really weird.
All right, I think it's time for you guys to ask us all those burning questions you've been hanging on to for the last hour and a half. Hi.
Thank you so much. And Michael, my question is, does SMPTE look at players like that, that we can play video on, QuickTime versus VLC versus different browsers? Because even if the codec is SMPTE certified like DNX is, depending on what you're playing it on, it looks different.
As far as my understanding is, SMPTE doesn't govern standards. Standards in terms of the software playing, right? Because they're coding against what file that they've been given. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you can have a codec that's within a certain standard, but that doesn't mean that it's going to look the same on every screen that you play it on. And it could be OS, it could be version of the OS, it could be Mac versus PC, it could be player, it could be QuickTime 10 versus QuickTime 7, it could be a Vimeo versus YouTube. I mean, it goes on and
Sure,
on and on.
but I think you find that throughout any piece of any part of the industry that deals with the technology, right? If you look at a standards organization, they're not going to standardize, well, every TV must be this bright. Every TV must have this way of adjusting contrast. It's going to be up to each individual manufacturer to adhere to standards that are recommended. SMPTE doesn't stand,
But
doesn't with a whip and say you must do
This
this.
is different, but that's different.
Okay.
I'm talking about where they put the gamma level or what they do with blacks below 16 or above 235. I mean, I'm not talking about, quality.
Both are interpreting the same signal they're given. If I get a Panasonic TV versus Sony TV, they're both getting the same over-the-air signal. So they're both displaying it in the way that their manufacturer says we should display things. So whether that's a player at the OS level, whether it be VLC, QuickTime, whatever, they're still interpreting the same codec with the same information.
It's not just the contrast on the screen. It's actually how it's interpreting the file, where it's putting the black level, what gamma it's using, what white level it's using, and it becomes a royal pain because some stuff looks extremely washed out. Sometimes it doesn't. You may have to make different versions and say, well, if you're playing on a Mac, maybe use this one. But it's a real pain.
Completely agree. I think it's a slippery slope when independent companies start mandating how you display data. Right, that's a very slippery slope. But I can certainly see, what SMPTE does and other standards organizations do is put out recommendations and say you should follow these. Everyone should follow these. And if you don't, shame on you. I mean, what can they do, right?
Good question. Thank you very much. We do have a Twitter question. Is technology moving too fast for it to be profitable?
Technology changes. Yes, deal with it. It's not going to stop changing.
But it's moving more quickly than it used to.
And is there a way to stop that?
No, there isn't.
Is there a way to say, hey, train,
But I do
slow
have a
down?
question. The move to file-based was a progression, was an evolution. Now we're in file-based. Where can it go from file-based? Is the evolution done?
File-based is a generic term because you're going to have different files, right? Back in the day, it was MPEG-2 transport stream, right? Now we're dealing with H.264, right? We're dealing with more formats
and 265
within
and,
265. So it's this. I can't see it going away. It's not going to slow down. It's just revisions in the same.
But we actually let's.
That was a business question.
Yes,
though.
that was a business question. So
Yeah.
let's ask Terry and Mark.
You used to go for return on investment over a 2 or 3 year period. Now it can be 6 months or 3 months because stuff changes so fast. And it's like, wait, if you bought a monitor right now, you bought the state-of-the-art reference monitor right now, in a year, when HDR's here, you're going to go, well, it's no good anymore. You have to buy another one. I know you just spent $35,000 on this monitor, but I'm sorry, you have to buy another one for $35,000. And then in 2 years, they're going to go, now it's 8K. Okay, there's another 30. It's insane. And you can't turn around and go to, well, you can ask the clients for that money, but guess what? This is in all the time I've been in the industry, this is the trajectory of budgets. And if anybody's seen different, let me know. But this is what I've seen.
It's a business question, and that means that it has to be worth it for both parties to make it work. I think that the tools are coming down in cost. The budgets are coming down commensurately. The audiences are being fragmented and shrinking and being smaller. So I think, there's a phrase in the Army, the food stinks, and there's plenty of it. And that's sort of where we're headed, which is, there's a lot of food out there, and it may not be these high-end productions, but it's a lot of it available. And you have to alter your production approach to the business realities that are there. There's always going to be high-end stuff being done. There's always going to be multi-million blockbusters, but that segment of the market is going to be a lot smaller.
Yeah,
and in a YouTube world, there's going to be plenty of other stuff to watch that can be done for a lot cheaper.
And is done for a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
There's a question here.
Since we are no longer in a proprietary hardware world of Sony, Panasonic, and JVC, holding us at ransom, we are now in the Moore's Law evolution of how things are going to change quickly. And that's why anytime I hear somebody say, it's not going to happen, I just remember that Birkenstock ponytail wearing online editor
That's what he used to look like.
sitting in front of his DMX editing, great phrase. Oh, that Avid's a toy.
Yeah.
And then to hear 10,000 Avid editors go, oh, that Final Cut 7's a toy. And that's why when I heard 100,000 Final Cut 7 editors saying, oh, that Final Cut 10's a toy, I started looking around. And that's why when you say, oh, VR, it's a toy,
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said it's a different market, and it's not dramatic storytelling that we do. It's a different thing.
Well, and that's my point about the barrier to entry has been lowered so far that we are no longer, we are so much further down the pike.
Yeah. I don't laugh when somebody says I'm going to shoot iPhones. I don't laugh anymore.
Well, look
deal
at
with it.
that movie last year, Tangerine, was shot with an iPhone.
Yeah, I
It was
figure out
pretty
a way
good.
to integrate it into our show.
And what scares me the most is this town product is story. Having worked in Seattle and New York and all the other part of the towns, they make coffee and cars and software is the product. But in this town, the IP, the intellectual property, is the product. So that's why it's so tight. And so that's where, when the distribution is no longer in LA.
Yeah, they don't own it anymore.
It can be done in South Carolina. It's going to be a business question then. And so that's the question of where is the story, because anybody can distribute it now from their 99 cent
Well, then
app.
it becomes then the issue becomes discoverability. That's the flip side of democratization. Anybody can make content. When everybody does, how do you discover it?
And how do you
There's
get above
so
the
much
noise?
of it.
In the lobby of our building, we have various phrases on the wall from network executives and things like that. But one of the prime things, right as you walk up the stairs, is the line, "What's the story?" And everybody sees that every time they come in the building, and that's what we sell. We don't sell any of these formats. We sell stories.
John Moore would like to know how you're handling monitoring and scoping for 4K post-production.
Nothing yet.
Blackmagic has done an interesting job of flooding the market with inexpensive technologies. If we look at like Tektronix and these other scope manufacturers, they're doing 4K and they do it well. The ones that have tried to do it at a cheap level, there's issues. And a lot of the online editors who are accustomed to these are the scopes I read want to stick with that. For 4K, they have to be over 30 inches, and usually those monitors are a good 15, 20K a pop. The scopes are usually 20 to 30K a pop. Those are still relatively expensive.
And I must say, for the press, I've been getting a lot of notices for press conferences at NAB, and a lot of people are promising 4K workflow products. So we're likely to see more measurement and test equipment, scopes, et cetera.
Even if a lot of projects are shot in 4K, our deliverables are actually 2K. 4K is the archive. So they're delivering 2K.
Right, so I
Or
think that's,
HD, depending.
John might have missed that we were talking about how it might be 4K at the end, but in the middle, it's not 4K, so.
Gosh.
I have one last question, which is, I've thought for a long time that the bandwidth that broadcasters use is really the phone companies are going to want it. I was once again right. What is broadcast going to look like in 5 years?
What's
even
your
10
definition
years?
of broadcast?
Well, I'm talking about over the air.
Right, okay.
Over the air broadcast.
I haven't used an antenna in, God, I don't know, 15, 20 years. So I don't actually get over the air anything.
Yeah, does anybody here watch TV over the air? Oh, okay.
So that's it,
people
out
do.
of all these people.
Right.
Yeah, so,
I mean-
so what do you think's gonna happen?
I don't know. That's
I mean,
my
over the air
question.
though, your phone is over the air, so
I mean-
there is an over the air, but it's different.
Well, but that's where those are the people that need the spectrum. Are the over the, so you can watch your Netflix on your mobile device.
So the question becomes, will you watch NBC with commercials over the internet or go to something else? That's really the question. Or
Well,
does
I mean-
NBC have to come up with a different model?
But NBC is much more than an over-the-air company, though.
We're thinking NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox,
I kind of feel like the content companies will have every reason to move forward without too many problems, but the cable companies will go bye-bye, won't they?
No, cable's always gonna be there because they're
because of-
providing the bandwidth. The only
Unless
guys you
it's-
can guarantee are gonna make money going forward are the ones pumping the stuff to your house. The pipe to your house is gonna continue to make money no matter what.
I think a lot of broadcasters are looking very carefully at what HBO is doing and trying to do that, Roku
carte.
channel and will someone pay a couple bucks a month?
Yeah.
Right, and trying to get consumers that way. And I think there's kind of a waiting game to see. Yeah, because there's actually nothing else they can do.
Well, they're
Right,
certainly.
right.
So they
Yeah,
kind of have to see.
Titanic,
It's like
dude.
they're rolling the dice. I hope something shakes out.
Well, they're all involved in multiple digital platforms now. I mean, they were very slow to turn to them, and now they're embracing pretty much all of them. So-
But they have to change because they're used to
Yeah.
this business model of, you'll sit through commercials to watch the show, and that's how they paid for everything. And people don't want to do that when you're on the internet.
There are plenty of people that hate the ads, but they like the free programming. So it's like, how much do you like the free programming?
Well, it's funny how there's so many different ways I watch TV. I mean, we have Amazon Prime, we have Netflix, we have Hulu. They have HBO Now. Because
Showtime Go.
Whatever the show.
Verizon has
is.
M90.
And
I mean,
even some channels require, I think CBS, in order to use their app on Apple TV, and I think FX does it too, you have to have a cable subscription and log in order to use the app to watch it on your Apple TV. And the easy way around that is, if you go to your phone, there's a CBS app, and you can watch their latest episodes of their shows, and I stream it to my Chromecast, and I watch it on my TV,
God.
streaming from the app, on the free app on my phone. And I was just like, look, it's really easy to bypass that. I'm trying to make you have a cable subscription in order to access the app on the Apple TV. They're still kind of fighting it a little bit. But there's so many easy ways around it. There's so many reasonably priced devices.
Question?
Yeah, Michael's doing our sound design and mixing. Is that how do you're a guy with lots of standards, and I think we're bending those standards when we ask you to do certain things. What are those kinds of things, and how do you adapt to that?
It comes down to something that you may be able to weigh in on, which is stylistic choices versus the consumption medium. I used to do sound design quite extensively, and if it was in a theatrical environment, you had nuance, right? And nowadays, everyone is the lowest common denominator is compressed to hell within this much of 0 dB with little white earbuds. And how do you have that kind of nuance when your frequency range is this wide and your loudness is that wide? So it becomes a stylistic choice as to how you can be stylistic and have these nuances and tell a story and make the story emotional from an auditory or visual perspective when the consumption medium doesn't allow for that.
I watch trailers and music videos on my phone on the YouTube app too. And I think audio, you just have to make sure they can hear what you want them to hear, but you're not going to have the nuance. What you really get is in the picture, in the video. I mean, you're not going to be able to push it as much as, like a huge theatrical experience, but it's like the screens are pretty good on our phones and the iPads, and so, we'll see that picture and it'll look vibrant and great, and so the audio, unfortunately, will suffer because of it. We won't get that auditorial experience, but the picture is where you're really going to sell that experience for the user.
So you're saying video now is exceeded audio in quality control, or quality?
As far as, how people view it. Because when I watch stuff on my phone, if I don't have my earbuds, guess what? It's coming out of the phone speaker.
Yeah.
As long as I can hear it and
You know-
understand it, I understand it's not going to be 5.1.
You know,
what?
that could be a future feature, though.
You know what? I know many colorists will use multiple monitors, right? So they can A/B it, see what it looks like. And as audio guys, I'm sure if any of you did audio, you used to have a pair of Oratones, right? And there's your A/B, and you go to Oratones. If it played on the Oratones, great. Someone's grandma in Iowa can watch it on her mono TV, great. Unfortunately now with sound, Well, what kind of computer are they listening
Yeah.
on, right? What kind of mobile device you're listening to? What headphones? Do they have Beats by Dre, which is going to jack up the bass, right? And what kind of encoding? How is YouTube going to encode it? Are they dropping off those frequencies? So it becomes almost impossible to find a happy medium unless you're homogenizing everything to having no dynamics and no nuance.
It's interesting because in the color correction world, that's why we have reference monitors. It's because if I walk into a bay anywhere in town, I should be seeing the same image.
But people are
Grandma
watching
in
on
Wyoming, her TV's all green. Okay, fine. But every show she sees is going to be the same green because we're consistent on the providing end.
Remember the Transformers trailers? Whenever there was a hit, there was a boom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? You can't do that anymore. Right?
yeah,
Because
you
you try
can't.
and reproduce that.
Gone.
Not gone. So working on the product with Ed, we cut to a scene that needs that bass drop and looks like nothing. I actually
So what do you do now?
I watched it on YouTube today. It's not turning the suck knob, but turning the bass down and adjusting frequencies so it'll sound good on decent speakers and actually has some sort of impact on earbuds. And again, I wish I could use a reference monitor, but
Yeah.
there's no happy medium anymore, especially when the content is destined for online.
Well, thank you very much again for attending our 13th annual Pre-NAB Editors Lounge. Thanks to Michael and Monica and Mark and Terry. See you next year for the 14th annual.